Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Sounds ridiculous if you hear those four words together for the first time. The title alone conjures images of B-movie schlock or some bizarre Japanese import. Time has proven, however, that this perennial IP is truly evergreen, as the adventures of this teenage terrapin tetrad has been iterated on many times over the past 30-plus years. However, one essential element of this band of brothers has always bothered me, and that is the slapdash nature of their origin story. For the uninitiated, the backstory of these turtles has the four of them being discarded into a sewer, coming into contact with a broken canister of mutagen ooze, being found by a Japanese man who also touches the ooze and becomes a rat man, who is trained as an elite ninja, but is also in hiding because another ninja wants to kill him, decides to adopt these mutated turtles and teach them ninjutsu. They learn to talk by watching television, and they live in the sewers of New York. There is so much serendipity at play here that the origin story stands out as being blatantly contrived. I think most fans love the absurd concept of stealthy man-turtles fighting crime and/or ninja battles in sewers, alleys, and rooftops, using 18th century ninja weapons and nunchaku against mutants, ninjas, and robots using laser guns and alien technology. Today on Canon Fodder, we will trace back the causal trajectory for the Ninja Turtles to unearth the logical events that brought them into being. This is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Origins Canon Fodder. This is not a fan fiction channel. My assertions for the true origin story are based on evidence found in the on-screen canon. I will not invent places, characters, or events to support my findings. The conclusion will emerge from the most logical set of outcomes, and not from what I would like to see happen. As a side note, the reason why fanfiction is such an evacuatory stain on any established franchise can be compared to fraudulent money, in that it tries to pass itself off as being legitimate and of equal value and utility to the real thing. However, under scrutiny, it is proven to be shabby, fake, valueless, and in large amounts bankrupt society and is devoid of any merit. However, legitimized canon corruption is even more egregious. This is certainly true about the Disney Skywalker trilogy. The narrative direction is so absent of talent and care that it holds the dishonorable distinction of being garbage canon. A metaphor for this abuse is like a truckload of cash that is hijacked, defecated, and urinated on, and then put back out into circulation. Sure, the cash is legitimate, but ruined beyond use or desirable ownership. Anyways, back to the Ninja Turtles. The canon origin story or cover story, as I'll prove down the line, is so ridiculous that it must be fake. The details of the cover story are clearly nuts, so why does every retelling of the Ninja Turtle story continue to maintain it? I think the reason is fairly obvious. It's done to protect the identities of the people involved. Just look at the names of the turtles. Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael. These are clearly aliases. You can't convince me that in the 1980s, with all the media that the Turtles and Splinter consumed in the sewers, that 500-year-old Renaissance sculptors and painters would be their heroes. Or that a 9-year-old Megan Fox was a history buff and picked those same names. And yes, I said Megan Fox, not April O'Neil. Let's be real, maybe some people had heard of Leonardo da Vinci, and to a lesser extent, Michelangelo de Lodovico Buonarroti Simoni, but Donato di Niccolò di Bettobardi and Raffaello Sanzio? No way. For reference, the top 10 boys' names in the 1980s in order from 1 to 10 are Michael, Christopher, Matthew, Joshua, David, James, Daniel, Robert, John, and Joseph. By this evidence we can prove that the real names of the turtles are something else. The cover story conveniently has 4 turtles come into contact with an ooze that mutates them into turtle-human hybrids, but also mutates Hamato Yoshi, later known as Splinter, into a rat man. The same ooze hybridizes humans into rhino and warthog variants, along with lizards, houseflies, and other creatures. It's almost as though the ooze must be sentient, creative, and aware of the plot. It might as well be magic. In all seriousness, everything about the ooze is just too narratively convenient, which again sounds like a cover-up. Something that stands out like a sore thumb are the voices of the turtles themselves. Without fail, every incarnation of Michelangelo has him talk like a surfer from California. Everything from cowabunga to surf's up dudes and so on sounds nothing like the other turtles. If we believe that Splinter, who always speaks with a Japanese inflection to his English, raised these turtles alone for at least 13 years up to the point where we the audience meet them, how is it that they sound nothing like him? Some versions even give Raphael a New York accent, but Leonardo and Donatello always have a neutral accent.
How about a 5-minute game misconduct for roughing, pal? A Jose Canseco bat? Tell me, you didn't pay money for this.
We can only conclude that these boys were not raised together, not to mention that they understand social cues and display none of the caution isolated kids would when confronted with the outside world for the first time. So who raised them? Their parents, obviously. Not exactly a smoking gun, but how much proof do you need? So let's jump to the conclusion. What should also assert itself by now is that these boys were born as human beings. They became turtle men sometime before we see them in the movies or cartoons. The crazy cover story serves to hide their real identities, protecting their families, or more nefariously, the people responsible for their change. Here are some of my recommendations. I think that a compelling live-action series on a streaming platform would be the best place to tell this origin story. The boys would be human for the bulk of the series and likely attending the same high school. The most plausible way to have the same change happen in all 4 boys, plus any other characters, would be an infection. Again, not a fan fiction channel, this is only speculation. Test animals from a lab escape and infect the characters. Splinter is bitten by a rat, for example. Circumstances bring the boys and Splinter together. He begins training them, and they go out on patrols looking for the test animals. Toward the end of the first season, the boys would confront a mutated turtle monster, perhaps in the sewers, each being bitten or scratched during the fight, and thus infected. A possible arc could see the mutation as beneficial at first, added healing or heightened senses, but eventually transforming the boys into the final form that they are known for. Whatever shape their journey takes from human to turtle, I maintain that the canon cover story is just that, a ruse to obscure their true beginnings. The evidence I've presented should prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the boys were born human and changed at a later point. Until next time.